We are live with Virginie. I always butcher her name. Did I say it right? Virginie?
Virginie, yes, correct.
Close enough. It's like an ongoing joke in our company. We call each other's by our name. Everybody can pronounce everybody's name except Virginie. So like we're all on first name basis now, but first letter basis, okay, to
Yeah.
keep things simple. But before I dive into introducing her, letting her introduce herself, let me cover kind of the administrative part of the show. Perspective Force sponsors this show, so we're able to bring this to you for free. Perspective Force, a corporate coaching company, allows us to do that. And 10% Fitter is a health category perspective. We have 7 different umbrellas of coaching under one roof, and it's all designed to bring the human being to the center of the competitive advantage, to help organizations win and be more profitable by taking care of their people better. It's not just about taking care about their people better, but it's doing it in a way that leads to greater profitability. But Fitter, right? 10% Fitter. Just remember, it's not about doing more push-ups and running really fast. Fitter is something that's completely different when it comes down to 10% Fitter. About being forward-thinking, intrinsically motivated, tenaciously passionate, trusting in self, intrinsically motivated, and resilient. We do this for individuals, but most importantly, we love to do this for a team. So if this is something that you want your team to become and your people to operate that way, let us know, because we don't just bring a health component in, we bring leadership with it, we bring communication with it, we bring all the other life components. So that brings me to our guest, who is a leadership coach, a speaker, writer, and just overall badass in my book. So when she offered to come on the show, I was like, you're the example of health in itself, even outside your journey. But then the story that she's going to share today is going to be so impactful for all of you, because it shows you that sometimes when people tell you there is no hope and you believe otherwise, you create your own hope and you create your own destiny. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you do now.
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me, Anton. Well, as you guys can hear, I'm French, based
Can you put
in.
your mic a little bit closer to your
Sure,
mouth?
sure, of course. Sorry. Is that better now? Yes?
Yeah.
Great. So, Luxembourg in Europe, and I have worked for more than 20 years in big international organizations, the last one being Amazon. And for the last 2 years, I decided to take the plunge and start on my own as a leadership coach, consultant, and trainer. And I help, or I turn managers into global leaders. I help them succeed in the adventures of leadership and self-assurance. And that's actually also the acronym of one of my other passions, SALSA. And that's why I try now to help people bring my leadership experience and knowledge with my passion, salsa, and to help people optimize their potential.
That's awesome, and we're gonna mention salsa in a little bit, because you should not be dancing salsa right now. We'll explain why that is in a second as you tell your story. Um, I'll speak personally about Virginie's ability to make me see the global perspective. Right, I was born in Russia, so you think I'd be a little bit more global than I am, but oftentimes when we're working together and we're in meetings, she'll slow me down, she'll slow the team down and say, hey guys, consider how this person in this country see this, consider how they would read this, consider how they would hear this, and is that message carried over the same way intended to, or is it not? And oftentimes there's a breakdown that occurs, and I'm so blessed to have you on our team, able to help me personally even through this, because a lot of times I would get in a lot of hot water otherwise. So let's dive into the presentation, and really this is about your story, right? That's really the component I think the audience needs to hear right now to find that hope. So kind of take us from the beginning of your accident, and the prognoses and how you came. Let's talk about that.
Sure. So many years ago, I had a very serious car accident. Basically, I was standing still in a traffic jam when a big truck hit us. And when I say us, it was myself and my mom. My mom was also in the car. Was brought to the hospital, and there the bad news started. Told that my pelvis was broken and that I had to lay down for a few weeks. This accident happened in Belgium. I asked to be repatriated to France because to be closer to my family and friends. And when I was repatriated to France, they did some other scans and they found another break in my pelvis near the spinal cord. And they told me that I had to lay down 6 weeks in bed without being allowed to stand up or even sit. So I was 6 weeks laying down on flat on my back without being able to turn right or left. And they told me that they put me under traction with 10 kilos weight. So that's approximately 20 pounds weight putting on my leg. And they had told me if that wouldn't help, they would have to operate me further and see how things are going. So anyway, I stayed 6 weeks in bed, as I say, laying down. And after the checks, they removed my traction because I had managed to recover properly, or at least that the brakes were closed. And that's when the doctors told me that they had been very, very scared for me because they thought I would become paralyzed. They said you had near spinal cord was so close that we thought you wouldn't be able to walk anymore. So that was a bit of a shock when they told me that. But then in a way I was relieved because I'm finally allowed to sit. I was put in a wheelchair and I had to start to learn to walk again like a baby. So I went to therapy in the swimming pool, in a special swimming pool, to learn to walk like a baby. Because when you are in water, as you guys know, your weight is much lighter than your normal weight in the air, let's say. And so every day going in a special swimming pool, starting to do my first steps, and they decreased the level of the water week after week. So after a few weeks again, another 6 to 8 weeks, I was finally able to start to walk. And when I did my first steps outside, the doctors again told me that I would probably limp. That it would be very strange if I didn't have anything, but they thought I would limp. And they also told me, well, by the way, if you are wearing high heels, forget about it. You're not allowed to wear high heels anymore. And you need to put, I don't know, I'm not sure how it's called in English, heel pad or heel pusher inside one of my shoes. Because they also had noticed that apparently one of my legs was shorter. It had moved with the accident, or if it was something I had from my birth. So that was what they told me basically after when I came out of the hospital. So it took in total 3 months for me to walk again and to be able to climb the stairs a little bit. I could not walk the stairs at the time normally, but just at a time with one leg. And afterwards, with physiotherapy, I was able to walk again, and months later to go back to a, let's say, more or less normal life.
That's so incredible. I mean, that story to me just I've heard so many different stories like that. And I've never been through anything like that, but what I see is people discount human ability to over, right? People discount human ability to want to live a full life again. Hey Abdul, thanks for joining. Wow, Cruz Romil. I apologize, Cruz Romil, if I butcher your name. Thanks so much for joining, man. I appreciate that. We have people joining from all over global perspective today. But Virginie's just shared her story about her car accident and how people discount and said you're never going to be normal, you're never going to be able to do these things like you used to. Let me ask you a follow up question that I absolutely love. What's your favorite activity to do now?
Oh, now my favorite is dancing salsa with high heels. With high heels.
High heels and
Yes.
salsa. If you know salsa, I don't know salsa how to dance it, but I've seen it. It requires quite a bit of hip movement and quite a bit of wiggle that a spine that's been so devastated it was supposed to recover should not be able to do, right?
Yeah, correct. Correct. No, I think if I was speaking to the doctors who treated me, then they would probably be very, very surprised that I now can dance salsa at that level, because I'm now dancing at an advanced level, not professional, but advanced level for sure.
You compete, right? You compete at a amateur level,
Yeah,
right?
I've done that in the past, but my main goal with salsa is really to have fun, and it's also my workout as well. So yeah.
That's great. I love that. Tell me a little bit about like the mindset. When you heard the news. What was your mind like? What did you think in your head when this doctor told you, "Hey, you may never be able to be normal again"?
Well, as I say, when he told me that they've been very afraid that I became that I would become, I was, as I say, in shock. I started to cry because I had mixed feelings. On one hand, I was grateful that I would be able to walk again. I didn't know how then, but that I would stand again on my feet. on the other hand, I was a bit annoyed because I was thinking, well, you should have told me. It was my body, it was my health. Why didn't you tell me? And I asked the doctor, I said, why didn't you tell me that before? And he said that throughout my time in the hospital, I always stayed positive. I was making jokes. I was one of the youngest person there. I was actually brought in a hospital actually for elderly people who usually have hip replacement or knee surgeries. And so we were a few young people there because we have these special facilities to help you walk again, like the special swimming pool and kind of things. So they told me, yeah, you were always positive, always smiling, always laughing, that we didn't want to give you the bad news because we thought you may become depressed afterwards. So as I said, I had mixed feelings. On one hand, I was like, yeah, okay, maybe they did the right thing, because probably if I had heard the news, I never realized I had been that close to being paralyzed. So I may have been depressed. But on the other hand, I was like, yeah, it was my body, so maybe you should have told me. But again, I was thinking, okay, that's the way it is. Let's move on. And now I'm just going to focus to go back to my life.
At what point in your life, or this journey, I should say, do you feel like you started to understand, you know what, to be this way? I can break past this. I can improve. I can get better. When did you start to realize
I honestly, I don't know. I think to me, it was obvious that I had to go back to my life, because I've always been very independent. I love to travel. I was always very sportive. So to me, there was no question in my mind. I would not go back to my life as I had before. So I think it was always inside of me.
that? So
Maybe
and
it was
you say that, but it's like such a big component. I want to make sure that the audience understands that just didn't accept what was told to her, and her mind was like, nope, I'm gonna do different. I don't want that, and I'm not accept that. Because I was reading about, some articles and stories that are similar to Virginie's and stuff, and I see that commonality where people said that, you know what, I don't believe this, I don't accept this, I'm not gonna just lay down and what people are telling me. So I absolutely love that.
exactly.
Mhm.
And so the other thing, maybe that's maybe more relevant, it's when they told me that I could not wear high heels, and I would have to have this heel pad in my shoes. And I was like, having a heel pad in my shoes, well, if I really had a problem, I probably would have had it before my accident. That was the first reflection I told myself. And the second thing and that's maybe pride as a woman who likes to wear open shoes in the summer. I was like, well, if I wear a heel pad, forget about all my nice shoes. I won't be able to wear them anymore. And I think I told myself, I want to try first without heel pad. And if worse come to worse, that indeed I am in pain, indeed I cannot walk properly, then I can always add the heel pad. But let me try to be just as I was before. Let me try to walk normally with my normal shoes, and slowly but surely increase the heel. And that's what I've done. And to this day, it's now 20 years later, I have not used one day a heel pad in my shoes because I just don't need it.
And that's I'm so glad you mentioned that, because a lot of times doctors are there to help us with overcoming a symptom, right? So the symptom is
Yes.
that potentially one leg shorter than the other, and normal common sense solution should be, well, let's support the other leg and give it what it's missing.
Yes.
Instead, you said, "Wait, an issue beforehand. There's something that happened between now and it's something that's tweaked inside my body. Instead of just providing a crutch for my body, which is ultimately what that heel rise would be, is just a crutch for your body to lean on. Let me fix the issue system at the root of that system, and that's what's going to help me the most, right?" And I love that you mentioned that, because that leads me to the conversation with our today's president. Feel free to chime anything that you see here, but I
Sure.
really wanted to bring you in and share that story. But this is a perfect example of understanding optimal versus not diseased, right? So with your story, with your example, when would have been not diseased, is it means that you would have used that heel support, that heel rise, and it would have made your experience of as much pain, as much as issues as there could have been. Doctor do. But you said, you know what? I don't want to just not be in pain. I don't want to just be good enough. I want to be was when before this happened. And that's what people need to grasp. There's a massive difference between being optimal and not being diseased. And that's why I talk about doctors not always being right. So getting in really this has to do with lab range. So with lab ranges, we're looking at, are you familiar personally yourself, Virginie, between like what's optimal lab values and like what's medical norms?
No,
Okay,
no,
cool. So it'll be a lesson for you too. But
yeah.
what it basically has to do with, guys, is statistics, right? That's what determines all of this stuff. And what people do is they go in the hospital and they say, okay, we need to figure out what is supposed to be a normal blood marker and what is supposed to be an out of range blood marker. And just like you would in business, what you're gonna do is you collect a bunch of data. You're gonna study that data and figure out what is it representing, what are abnormalities and what are considered. And what they do is they basically go in the hospital, and a lot of military also, that's another area they collect a lot of this data, and they see what are these ranges. Well, here's one thing that's a problem in itself. Do healthy people go to the hospital? No. Why would they? It doesn't make sense. Why would I go and give blood at the hospital if I don't have anything wrong with me? So the sample size that this is all being collected from is from sick population, right? That can be a problem, right? You can understand like what kind of your business, right? Is you're a coach. So imagine you started to figure out problems to solve from people that were not your ideal client. Like had no communication, no leadership issues. They needed a business coach. And even though that's something you can do, that's not your strength point. And now you go and you collect data on what you should do as a participant, as a coach, in order to appease their problems. Well, that's a big issue because their problems don't match your solution because they never were meant to be your, customer. The same thing is happening in the hospital, right? So, statistically speaking, is what they do. They go and find all this data and they say, let's go right smack down in the middle of it. And we're going to deviations out, which is what you kind of see on the screen there. And what it's basically saying is 95% of the population is healthy, but that's not true. 95% of population is considered not diseased. So only one standard deviation out. So if you study statistics, standard deviation, if I remember correctly, is 68%. Two standard deviation is 95%. So a lot of people end up not feeling good, right? They're suffering maybe like you did, and they're having, but they're not full on broken. They're not to a point where, yes, you're paralyzed and you can never recover. You were able to come back. And similarly to these people with blood issues, with joint issues, with other different things, but more importantly, blood markers in this example, they are 95% window. So that gray area that's not optimal, but not bad enough for the doctor to go, hey, you need to do this. So what do you think, just even not, what do you think would be some of the problems that you would foresee happening when a person's living in the gray, but the doctor is telling them everything is okay? What do you see would happen from that?
Well, they would continue doing what they do. They would not realize that they are close to having a heart attack or having another disease or whatever. So I think that's the risk, the main risk, I think.
Right? It's an ongoing process. That's a sliding scale. You're getting closer, you're getting closer, you're getting closer. But society's not talking like that. Society's not talking about that gray in traditional medicine side and traditional doctors. That's why I believe in naturopathic medicine. And go to a doctor, I say, don't go to an MD, try a DO. Now, if you need a specialist, it's a different story, guys. Specialist doctors are absolutely needed when a person is diagnosed with an actual disease, an actual problem, when you broke your back and all those things. The doctors are valuable and important, guys. I do not want to put doctors down. That's something I want to make very, very clear. They're amazing people that go through gazillion years of school that I could never make it through, be able to help people, right? But at the same time, they're specialists in what they know. And we assume because a doctor is a doctor, they know all medicine. No, just like a coach knows leadership, doesn't necessarily know how to coach, health. Could they do it some way? Yeah, sure, but they wouldn't be as effective. Well, the same, go to doctors that understand your body the most. So if you haven't figured out this, you need to go more a generalist, like a naturopath or a DO, the whole system instead of just one area. And if you figure out now it's a legit problem, it's been diagnosed, go to a specialist. So that's just a little understanding about how lab ranges are calculated. Right now, talking about thyroid is the next component here, but with thyroid, I just put it on the screen a little bit here. I'll move it over. Oh no, I can't. Never mind. But I'll show you just basically. It's really the top range anyway. To understand standard reference range and optimal reference range, right? Thyroid stimulating hormone is something that helps to regulate your metabolism. It's something that helps to create energy. It's something that helps burn fat, like all those different things. And when it goes out of whack, it creates a problem. Well, if you're for a doctor's office, somewhere between 0.4 and 5 units is what they're going to say you're normal. Now, if you look over on the right side, the optimal range is 0.5 to 2 units, or somewhere between 2.5 and L, right? So technically, you can be double the norm, and your doctor is still saying to you that everything is okay. It's not their fault. It's the way the medicine world is set up, that they can't put you on a medication until you're over a certain threshold. So you've well into that gray area. Your body's probably lacking energy. You're probably not burning fat. You're carrying weight around your hips very often, and your doctor is not telling you something's wrong because you went to an MD. This is where a naturopath needs to come in, because they don't just put you on medication. Or people like me, like a health coach, functional medicine practitioners, they'll help you with supplements and other things to be able to assist those people in the gray. Do you ever heard anybody with thyroid, Virginie?
Yes, a few times, yes.
I'm curious. I'm curious. Is thyroid issues as common in Europe as they are in US? I mean, it's really, really common. Is that something you do a lot over?
You hear it. What is current in the US? You hear it once in a while, but I wouldn't say it's common that you hear every day or every week. No.
It's becoming really common in US, and I like to ask that because, we don't live quite the same lifestyle. I think Europe is still much healthier than the US in many, many different ways. You move more, you eat more natural food, it's a lot less processed.
Yeah.
Stress is slightly better, not too much better, but slightly. Those things happen to thyroid. All of that impacts our thyroid. We just don't and just look at it anecdotally and see, okay, Europe's doing better, we're doing worse, something we're doing not right. But is just understand there's a medical norm and there's an optimal range, and if you're not feeling right and your doctor's telling you something's everything's okay, it does not mean you're not in that gray area and everything is truly okay. This is another example on the screen of testosterone. This is a example from me. It's something that I struggled with over my life because I'm testosterone deficient for my age group. So if you look at like the reference range, so when you look on the left corner, there's average testosterone level, which nanograms per deciliter. And when I first was introduced to this concept, I was under 25. As your average is 692, but I came in at 500 when I had it tested, and I actually got lucky with a good doctor and I figured it out. And if you look on the right side, the 96 to 1008. So at 500, I was within that range, even though it was borderline low. I was not able to build muscle as well. I was not able to burn out with my buddies, and they were all getting better results than me. And I was like, what gives? Like, this is BS. Like, I feel like I'm working harder, getting better results. Well, it's because my testosterone wasn't where it should be, even low enough medically. Then I worked with a naturopath and helped to rebuild it, and I got up into 800s. Felt amazing, but here's the problem. Testosterone is what makes us kind of our go hormone. It motivates us. It makes us feel alive. It makes us want to do things. And even when women, it becomes a problem and it's not accurately measured and tested, that'll hurt issues. I bet so healthy. Virgilio is Virginie's husband. So the other part, estrogens and other hormones are not just about total values. Ratios matter. Have you ever heard anybody, or have you ever estrogen issues yourself, like menopausal, premenopausal? I'm sure you're probably not even touching that. You're healthy. Like, this is a perfect example. Like, when you live a good life, that's what you don't have to deal with this crap. Where in the US, I mean, I would probably say my gross estimate, guys, I don't have a data on this. This is just me working with people. At least 75% of women in US, once they cross over 40, I'm not saying Virginie's over 40. I'm not labeling
I am.
that.
I confirm I am.
You could say that. I wasn't gonna say that, but most women have estrogen issues, and it's usually discounted as, oh, it's the age, it's menopause. Well, you're sitting across the screen from me and you're not having no struggles being the same age as those women. What gives, doctors? Like, if that was really true, that would be the case. What would you attribute to why, even if you don't know a ton about estrogens, things like that, why would you think that you don't struggle with it? What is it that you do on a regular basis that is different from most people in US?
So as you said, and I think you're making a very good point. In Europe, I think we eat healthier in general. We don't have the GMO products and a lot of processed food. And I've always been quite healthy all my life. I became a vegetarian since I am 18. I stopped eating meat only when I was coming back to my parents. And now I haven't in, I don't know, 10, 15 years, something like that. So I eat
Wow.
sometimes once in a while fish, maybe once every 2, 3 weeks. Eggs, I eat eggs unless they are in cakes or pancakes or whatever. But I would never cook myself an omelette, for instance. So I do that. I juice. Last few years as well, I started to juice. So pretty much every day as well, drinking green juice, carrot juice, these type of things. And I've never smoked, so I know that that also helps. I don't drink alcohol either, never drink alcohol. I know for a French person it's unusual,
Wait,
but I'm probably
wait,
one that,
like
yes,
never?
never. I no, so
What?
there was one day I did try when I was 24 to see what was the big deal about getting drunk, and I drank a lot and I threw up the whole evening. And I was like, okay.
That'll keep you from doing it again.
So, so I never had something. Even my grandmother, when I was 14, I remember she told me, "Yeah, you don't like it, but later you will like it." Well, many years later, I still don't like wasabi or whatever. So
I
I
did
don't
not
drink.
know that about you. I really
Yeah,
didn't. I'm surprised it's happened for about 2 years now, and I
yeah.
did not know that. That's so amazing.
See, the only friend who doesn't drink alcohol, but
That's so
that's
cool.
me.
But let me kind of unpack this for the
Yeah.
audience because, right,
Yes.
you're talking about the behaviors that led to
Yeah.
good health, not having to deal with estrogen problems. But let me unpack this for some things she mentioned. She is a vegetarian. Now, I'm not saying you can't eat meat, guys. That's not what I'm saying. I'm actually an advocate for meat.
Yeah.
It's the quality meat that we eat. So one difference is that in America, many of us eat a bunch of processed crap meat that was raised in cages, shoved full of hormones, maximize yield, right, to get as much as you can from one cow, one bull, whatever it is, and you're inheriting that crap. So if you do eat meat, make sure it's very highly clean meat and you're not doing too much of it. But the
Yeah.
other side of it is eat a ton of vegetables. Like that's what people vegetarians, you rely so much on plants for your nutrients, right? For your food
Correct.
that you
Yes.
get a ton of nutrients. Like lots I'm assuming you get a lot of different colors and things like that. Is that correct?
Yes, and lots of nuts as well. Take
All
as
of
well.
your body on a cellular level, guys. And many of you are just simply not eating extreme and become a vegetarian, but at least start eating 12 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, with 9 being vegetables and 3 being fruit. Not the other way around like we like to do in America if we tend to do that, because that's also not ideal. But the other thing that she mentioned, alcohol. Not doing alcohol GMO products. Do you know what we talk about? Estrogen. You know what the biggest way to regulate your estrogen and what's most responsible for it? Your gut. Estrogen gets metabolized in the gut. Basically, our body absorbs it, breaks it down, and passes it with weight. If a gut's not properly, it binds to something and recirculates back into our body. And that's when we start to have negative estrogen and toxic estrogen and things like that. But do alcohol, which doesn't kill her gut flora, and that's what the part about alcohol is. Most people think about alcohol, calories, sugar. I'm like, no. The worst about alcohol is it's a freaking poison that you're putting inside your gut, and it kills the good things that live in there. So, you've taken care of your gut. You've provided your nutrients and minerals and things like that for your cells to thrive, and that's why you look like you're in your.
And
But
I'm
it's
not. I'm
true.
close to 50 actually. So you see.
I don't want to say that, but you can. So, guys, all of you now, like, understand you can do this. Like, even if you're looking a little bit like me, like I'm starting to look a little bit aged. I got to drink better water. My water. Uh, if you start taking care of better, you can reverse a lot of these things. You can reverse the way your skin looks. You can reverse how you feels, your energy levels, all these things, and just do what Virginie did with her way of eating.
So if
Go
I
ahead.
can add
Yeah, of course.
something about that, Anton, something else I do, and I was not doing it. I was drinking lots of milk as I was younger. Until about 10 years ago, until I watched a documentary where they said actually dairy probably might not be all that good. And that made me think of my accident, because when I was told to eat drink lots of milk, eat cheese and yogurt and all these type of things. And the fun, so I decided drinking milk every day, because I was really drinking milk every single day, eating lots of cheese. Since I've stopped drinking milk, I drink maybe milk now once every 3 months in a cappuccino. But since I stopped drinking milk and also reduced my consumption of salt, I have been also migraine for now 7 years. And also I used to have sometimes spots on my chin, and when I was younger, people were telling me, you're that's acne. And when I was in my 30s, still at this point, I was like, well, I'm not a teenager anymore. I have these spots. And since I stopped drinking milk on a regular basis, I am also spot free. And I do some tests once in a while. I'm going to have a cappuccino one day on holiday, and then a day after, as soon as I start to drink cappuccino for 3 days in a row, you can be sure I'm going to get these spots on my. So there are so many things you need to pay attention to. And that's why I'm a big believer in listen to your body, because it does tell you, it gives you warning of there's something wrong going on inside of you.
And I love milk. We're the only species that drinks milk as a mammal past the age of 2, right? The nature likes to the right way. If you guys haven't noticed, nature's got it right well before we existed. I'm just saying. So chances are, pay attention to what natural is, truly natural, not common, and do that, and you're probably going to be okay. But milk is highly inflammatory. So right. So here's tying into why your doctor's not always right? She's in the hospital, so people are thinking, okay, we're gonna give her lots of milk, lots of yogurt for calcium, right? So we need her body to have the calcium to be able to rebuild the bones and do all that. I'm like, just give her a calcium supplement and stop giving her dairy that is highly inflammatory while her back is inflamed and trying to heal, and you're taking the inflammatory process from healing the back to now healing the gut on into the dairy that you put into it, right? And that's why, like, some of this stuff that I teach is dry, and I know that. Like, some of these episodes, this one's not because you're here and you're entertaining, but some of this other stuff I teach is pretty dry, and I'm like, suck it up, buck up. I tell people, like, you need to learn this, because once you see the big picture, learn in 20 hours, and the knowledge that you've gained over your lifetime, I'm trying to share that with people ahead of time and say, hey, at least ask better questions.
Yes.
So moving forward, right, we're chasing symptoms versus solving root cause. And that's kind of what we talked about when your doctor gave you or said you should wear this heel thing that supports your shot instead of fixing why the leg was shorter, right? That's the root cause in itself. Chance some lumbar issues, some hip issues, got tight, whatever.
Or maybe I was born like that. Maybe I was born like that and never had an issue before.
There you go. Perhaps, right? And that's the way some of us are. But the point is, it's addressing it where it came from, understanding it, versus just giving a pill, giving a crutch, something to alleviate a symptom in the moment. Because sometimes you need to suffer a little bit longer to be better in the long run, instead of taking a short-term medicine, suffering in the short term, but now you got to be on it forever. So what I'm getting at right now is, as you can see here, this is our medicine. If you look at this picture on the board, that's how our medicine works. And below it, like, you have a tree, right? Below are the roots, and you can't see that. That's preventative. It means that it hasn't become a full-on diagnosis. It means that you haven't moved into that 95 or that 5% that are outside that, good enough range. You're full-on diagnosed now. You have your tree stump, you have your tree branch, right? So how I break this down is I say, your MD is typically there to give you a pill to solve a specific issue. That's a leaf, right? A specific leaf. You have pain, you have reflux, you have rashes, you have anxiety, you have depression, you have arthritis, infection, memory loss, insomnia, whatever the symptom is. They're there to give you this pill. As soon as you take that pill, or within a very short amount of time, that symptom is going to get either better or go away. Does it mean that the problem was fixed? Not necessarily. It just means that you're not experiencing that symptom. So as an example, diabetics, type 2 diabetics, I use it all the time because I've fixed more type 2 diabetes in people and taken them off insulin and metformin and all those other medications more than I can count on 2 hands and 2 feet. People that were told you're forever going to be on them off of it. And I've done that with blood pressure. I've done it with statins. I've done it with, blood sugar regulation and diabetics. Why? Because we fixed the issue. So we got their body to regulate blood sugar better, work better. So now their insulin is to the cell. I don't need insulin externally. So then we're looking at branches, and the tree is your naturopathic medicine, right? They're looking at the whole system instead of just a. But the problem is now it's become above surface, and you're within that 5%. That's where preventative medicine comes in. That's where eating, like Virginie talks about. That's where dancing, because dancing for you is not just exercise; it's a stress. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. It's my mental and physical stress relief. I need it because that's the only time where I don't have time to think. I need to listen to the music. I need to feel if my dance partner wants me to turn, or if he wants me to turn 1, 2, 3 times or whatever. And so if I run, or which I don't do often because I don't like to run, but let's say if I go for a walk or if I read a book and something is bothering me, I will still continue on thinking about it. While with I don't have time, and it's such a stress relief because when I come back home, I'm so relaxed mentally, physically. So it's not only in my workout, but it's definitely my biggest stress relief for sure. Yes.
And I love that. And I don't know about the audience, I don't know about you guys, but I'm looking at this going, I'd rather do some salsa a few times a week and avoid some of these things you see above ground, right? I'll tell you right now, autoimmune issues, she's helping by dancing salsa. Autoimmunity stems from health, and when we're stressed, our gut health is poor, so she's helping her autoimmune issues. Reflux, anxiety, stress management connects to that. Allergies can kind of reach through gut health as well. Weight gain, check. Hormonal check. Insomnia, stress management check. Memory loss, guess what? When your body's moving cross-sectionally and you're making your brain communicate in ways it's not normally doing it, check. Alzheimer's and dementia. Infections, health. If you're maintaining your stress, cortisol, stress hormone, plays a huge role in immunity and in your immune response. It's being properly managed. Better, check. Depression, check. Constipation, gut health, check. Through in pathway irritability, every single thing that you see in those leaves, by dancing salsa on a regular, that's something that's good. Virginie, I'm not saying that's your answer. To everybody that's her answer. She's found the thing that she loves, invigorates her, makes her move and do that. And you guys can all find that as well. But understand, it's a lot easier to prevent this stuff when it's in the than it is to try to fix it, down the road. So talking about naturopathic medicine, right? This is what it should look like. When you're treating your body, you're letting your body heal properly. It's first establishing a foundation of optimizing everything, making sure that your body's getting the right nutrients, getting the right things that it needs. Then stimulate the self-help healing medicine, right? Giving your body more supplements. Maybe it's hard through nutrition alone. Support and what your body's lagging in specific dose. Now we're getting a little bit more specific. Then natural symptom control. Now we're identifying symptoms and treating those symptoms a little bit more in particular, but natural. Then synthetic symptom relief, which is now we got your medication. And then finally is surgery and other bigger things like chemo and whatever it may be, right? But look at how many levels there medicine should be introduced, right? But when we typically go to a regular traditional doctor, it's usually here's a pill, it's gonna make you feel better, it's gonna help. But is it really helping? Like, I don't know about you, but me being chronically on medication that has side effects that nobody tells me about when I start taking it, that I don't even understand, and now I have to take a second for the side effects, and now I'm on 5, and I don't even know why I'm taking them all, right? Like, does that seem fair to you?
No, not at all. I'm with you on that one, Anton. It's I think the challenge is that people are not patient. They want the magic pill. Headache, they want it to go away straight away, and they don't. They have, as you said, diabetes. They have whatever, and they just want the magic pill. And if you live healthy, if you eat the right food with the right nutrients, the right vitamins and minerals, if you exercise a little bit, and as you rightly said, my thing is salsa, but if someone wants to run or play tennis or whatever, everybody is different. But you need to exercise regularly, and by doing all of this, you don't need medicine. And as you also said, against doctors. They have saved me. The proof is that I'm still alive, and I'm very grateful to them. But what I think my message is, as you said, Anton, is make your research and don't take things for granted. The doctors, they try to help, they try to relieve from pain, but they don't know everything. And also by doing things, prevent, can avoid all this pain and be in a good health for the rest of your life, basically. And the strange thing as well with the side effects, that's my husband's mom. She has been sick for many years, and they're giving her one pill to fight. She had schizophrenia many years ago, so they gave her medicine to have schizophrenia. But then the side effects was maybe diabetes, so she started to have diabetes. So they gave her. Then there was another side effect, and she ended up taking so many pills, and she never got better. And while we took her for 4 months, stopped some medicine. We started to give her juice and make her eat coffee, no sugar, no processed food, really just salad, juice, nuts, etc. And she was better after 3 months. Unfortunately, she wanted to go back to the hospital, and they gave her the pills again. And in one day, in 24 hours, she was back to where she was before. And unfortunately, now she passed away. And we think, now what we know that you could do so much if you really start asking yourself questions. Okay, does that make sense? And what can I do myself to prevent from happening again? At some point, I may have to take a pill, but it should only be for a certain amount of time and not something that I need to take for the rest of my life.
And it's spot on, right? That's what I'm trying to do with all these shows. I'm not expecting everybody to retain all this information. I'm not expecting everybody to know everything. I just want people to ask better questions. I want people to be empowered to say, you know what? I don't have to take a traditional answer. I need to actually think for myself, look logically. Sometimes simply without even, like you said, you applied simple logic and said, what if my hip was before the accident and I function just fine, and now you're telling me I need something? It's a test and experiment. It can't hurt, right? You just kind of ponder that for a while. You start to explore the thought, and you see where it leads to. But too many people just accept things as they are, and they don't move on and try to get better. They just give up in a way, because that's what your mom or your husband's mom had to do, is finally give up, because the entire world is telling her this is the right answer. Where if there's 100 people around her, 98 were saying you need to be in the hospital, need to be on medication, and 2, even though it was making her feel better, because there's only 2, it's hard to be there and stay that way. But perfect example, right? So she was in that schizophrenia medication, probably a needed medication, right? That's an example where people need something like that because the mind is just not doing shouldn't be doing. But at the same time, is there that she could have done holistically to maybe lower the dosage, to make it more effective and impactful, and most importantly, to the symptoms, right? So a perfect example, and not necessarily the pathway, but I see it happen all the time. A person could be stressed in general, right? They take this medication and it starts to help, but it's also a chemical. Now you're putting a chemical in your body that wasn't supposed to be there, and it becomes like the camel's back. So she could have become overly stressed, and stress regulates blood sugar. So because her stress wasn't good, her blood sugar regulation became poor, developed. So instead of giving metformin or insulin or whatever else they gave her, why not go, okay, we know that stress is up from this medication, so let's incorporate stress management techniques, but we also know that your body's going to be bombarded, so let's make sure that your diet's a little bit better and we're helping you to regulate blood sugar better. Medication keeps working, she feels better, and now she doesn't got to take the other 4 or 5 or whatever that came after. And that's why I'm like, guys, we really have to left and right hand come together. Medicine. It's not about Eastern, it's not about Western, it's about coming in the middle and using every resource possible to help human beings function and live their lives. That's truly what it's about. So finally, last piece here, our bodies are our own, guys. This is an example of body did what medical science said it shouldn't, right? It's what we understand, what we think is logically going to happen. Guys, we don't understand our system. Science is not as knowledgeable as we like to pretend, because things that we thought about 20 years ago were absolutely truth. Now we're going, that's actually wrong. Like, that's not what it is. There's a different pathway, different thing that's being impacted. But I'll just leave you guys on this. What is a stem cell? That's a new science that's coming out, and there's a lot of it being used in modern medicine to alleviate problems and avoid surgeries. So stem cells can reduce inflammation. stem cells for arthritis now. Instead of going and getting on meds that screw up your metabolism, things like that, they're helping with stem cell replacement. It can help with all sorts of other things, like we got your fight apoptosis, cell death. So right, so generates health. They're studying cells right now to figure out how to reverse aging. Guys, there's so much cool science out there that your doctors can't keep up with because they went to school 5, 10, 20 years ago, but this science came out this year. And they're so busy with patients all the time, so busy saving lives and working in critical areas that they don't advance this knowledge. Many don't. Not saying all don't, but many don't, right? You have issues with muscle. Stem cells can help there. Many different places, but ultimately they're using it to avoid. Guys, the other part is spiritual healing, right? And this is where we don't understand what we don't understand, right? So then we try to discount it. But it's interesting how, if you look at these, you look at the screen, this is Eastern medicine, yoga practitioners, and kind of some spiritual stuff. They believe in energy centers. There's 77 energy centers. I'm a yoga teacher, I've, meditation coach, even though I'm a little bit more hybrid between what. If you notice, these areas occur in problematic areas that we experience. Pineal gland, our thyroid, right? If this thing is swollen, dysfunctional, and things like that, we have a thyroid problem. They didn't know the science back then. They knew this area is important. And what's cool is that through their healing methods and their own practices that are not your traditional Western medicine, help those areas, even knowing the science. So we can't discount thousands of years of how they did these things and address some of these common problems and say because they didn't understand it. No, they just treated it differently. Instead of treating it from here's what we know, they go, let's try something to see how it works, and it worked. So don't discount Eastern medicine. Don't discount spiritual healing as do you believe in this kind of, Virginie?
Oh yes, absolutely.
So explore chakras and anything else to leave people with final.
No, well, just as I said, doctors are good and they are there to help, but make sure you make your research. Don't take anything they say for granted, and because they are a doctor, they know everything. That is not true. They are here to help you. Always make your research and all things. It's not because a certain thing works for you that your children, but it's different. Some people have some allergies or whatever. But make some tests and see how it goes. You will see some differences. And I always say, like with the health stuff, that people say, yeah, but if I take this pill or this medicine, I feel better. And I'm keep telling them, what does it cost you just for 1 week or 1 month to try not to eat, for instance, meat, or try to juice? See how you feel. Because after, it's just a week or a month. What is a week or a month in a life? Nothing. And then after, if you say, well, I'm not better, or I don't see any improvement, you can always go back to what you were doing. But try to test, because you don't know what you don't know. So that's what you were saying, Anta. So
such a great point. And 30 days, that's why I encourage people. Just do something for 30 days, and you can't. Here's the point there's a vital point that you made. We feel better when we take a medicine, right? But that's a scale. Better is not an absolute number. It's a scale, meaning that you have to have a contrast to what you're comparing to. But what if what truly good feels like, right? And that's what the case is with most of the clients that I worked with and most people that I coach and stuff. They've forgotten that feeling of my energy's great. I wake up, I'm motivated, I'm alert, I have no focus, energy problems. So now you have a marginal improvement, so you're better. But what people don't realize in that medicine is there's still, but they don't even know what that is. Or anything like that. So that's why experiments work so well, because it gets you to taste, feel, experience what actually good feels like, and then you can tell me if that medicine does the same thing or not. And chances are it's not going to, or chances are using medicine in conjunction with these things will work better, because not everybody can get off medicine. There's certain medicines that you have to be on, but I promise you, I hands down promise you, there's not a single medicine that will not be improved. It's being better, moving better, managing your internal health, and managing your mind. If you do those 4 components, every single medicine will work better, because your body will work that medicine. So that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you so much for joining. It's been a great pleasure to have a few of you guys on the show. Tomorrow we're going to cover, Virginie won't be back on because she got a life and stuff like that. But I'll still be here. Tomorrow I'm covering so we're going to dive into foundation of about why counting calories is not your answer.